Hi, this is the illustrious Michael K. Easton with the Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast with
Jordan Lowe,
Cliff Barnes.
Rounding out this fantastic four of podcast teams, I'm Mr. Seth-tastic.
Do you stretch?
Oh, yeah.
That sounds like a different podcast.
Oh, which ones are you guys? I'm Mr. Seth-tastic. Quick, last one's Invisible Girl.
I was gonna say that probably makes me Invisible Girl.
Nah, I think you grew up on Yancey Street. You're like a rough and tumble
thing.
You're Bing Grimm.
Johnny Storm.
I'll see either way.
So hey, this is
Moving
our
on.
first episode. Episode number 1 of the Ka-Pow podcast. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. Glad to have you. If you're a long-time listener of our previous incarnation, the So Pro podcast, we're the same four yahoos, and it won't be a world of difference. You're not going to be lost. It's a similar format, but we're going to try to shake things up a little bit and do something new.
Yeah, it won't be like an episode of Lost where you're halfway through it and you're wondering what the hell's going on.
That's the timely pop culture references you're going to get here on Ka-Pow.
We will not spoil Breaking Bad.
So who's your JR, you think?
I don't know, but I feel like it was a dream.
I felt like I had a dream last night about 7:30. Or wait a minute, was that a nightmare?
Oh, Michael.
For my heterosexual life mate, Jordan and I, went and saw Superman versus Batman last night. And
For him? You dedicated the viewing to him?
Oh yeah, I got down on one knee and said, "This is for you, baby." That's all I can say about it for now.
We're not going to spoil it, so don't tune out.
Yeah.
We realize many of you probably haven't seen it yet, so you're safe to listen to this episode. We're not going to give away anything.
The good news, the house was packed, and I'm sure it's going to make tons of money.
So next week with episode 2, we will
spoil the heck out of it.
Yes.
We will share our feelings.
Episode 2, we're devoting the full hour to Superman, Batman, our opinions, our thoughts, love, hate. You'll find out our thoughts.
Michael's going to talk a lot.
Michael had opinions on this, let's say.
Very opinionated. Extremely opinionated. Moving on.
So introduce yourself if people are...
If they don't know us by now.
Oh. Well, obviously, I guess I go first. I'm the illustrious Michael K. Easton. No one can be more illustrious than me.
It says all of that on his birth certificate.
Actually, if you look at my birth certificate, you'll find someone else's name. Another story for another time. Born and bred in Marietta, Ohio. Lived here all my life. Got into comics at an early age. And of course, I'm a huge Superman fan from the get-go. And I've been collecting comics since I was in the 4th grade. Lifelong comic fan. And
you've been drawing comics for almost as long.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm an artist too.
Sometimes.
I don't think I got enough sleep.
I was going to say, you kind of have something else.
I do draw comics too. Moving on. I have not had enough sleep for this podcast.
Well, I am Jordan Lowe, and I usually write the words for those comics Michael occasionally draws. So I'm a writer. I was born not in Marietta, but on the outskirts. More of a rural area.
Are you a cowboy?
I'm from Lowell, Ohio. And, grew up here, spent a few years in Columbus during college, and then I moved back here, and, after living in a town with 2 or 3 great comic shops and moving back here where there wasn't anywhere to get good comics, I pursued my life's goal and opened up a comic book store. So I am the owner-operator of Asylum Comics here in Marietta. We've been around for over 10 years now. And now I also do podcasts. So life well spent.
You've done it all, man. I'm Seth Offenberger. I've lived here in the inskirts and outskirts of Marietta, and my whole life, fanboy for all these comics since I was a little guy, and I stole some kid's collection when his dad said, "Take those with you when you leave." And big Marvel fan, probably more than DC, if that matters to anybody. And I've loved it my whole life, and I like talking about it. So excited to join these guys.
And I'm Cliff Barnes. I too grew up on the outskirts of Marietta. I have many fandoms. I would say starting out probably with Star Wars in the 80s, and I still have a deep love of all things 80s and the cartoons and movies that we grew up with, much like the other three. And I also do a little collecting of the comics, big TV and movie guy. Other than that, day job, I'm actually a travel agent. I specialize in Disney vacations, so thus my great lifelong fandom with Disney, especially. You may be hearing more of that soon. And basically, I think how we got this whole podcasting bug thing going was a little credit to Michael.
Can you say that again?
Michael has been wanting to do this for some time.
He invented podcasts, if you ask him. Years ago, he had the idea.
Yeah.
I was in my tub reading a book. It sliced my nipple and gave me this thought.
That's like Doc Brown inventing the flux capacitor.
So one by one, Michael had somehow recruited this little team here and into our podcast by night fandoms, and here we are.
And it's equal playing field because we have 2 DC people and 2 Marvel people.
Mm-hmm.
Even ground.
Yeah. And we do sit across the table from each other. So.
It's almost like
I
Batman.
scooted around to this side just naturally. I had to face off against him.
It's almost like Batman versus Superman again.
And we're all one big happy family. Everyone here's related except me, and I've been adopted into the family.
In several odd ways.
He got married towards the beginning of this podcast, apparently.
Oh, okay. So hopefully you can go back and check out our So Pro podcast. All these stories we've talked about. We've talked about our favorite characters, our favorite movies. I mean, we've delved into our backstory quite a bit, so we won't bore you with that anymore. But
we won't tell you our origin story for the 20th
You
time.
can go back to find our secret origin. But enough about the past. Let's move to the future.
We, as far as we'll go with the Batman and Superman this week, at the premiere, I know Cliff wants me to talk about this. Geoff Johns told some reporters that Booster Gold is coming to DC Entertainment in some form.
The real DC hero.
So what is anything? I didn't hear anything.
No,
specific.
he's just saying he has big plans. Whether
plans.
Whether that could be, there's talk about this Booster Gold and Blue Beetle movie. With Rip Hunter being on DC's Legends of Tomorrow, every week I'm just waiting on him to pop up there.
It needs to be like a half-hour comedy show.
It should be. It should be. After all the depressing stuff DC's putting out right now, I could use a little bit of.
Yeah, on a show about time travel, you think Booster would be an easy to slot him in there. Although all the characters on that show pretty much stop wearing their costumes; they just walk around in street clothes to keep the budget low. So I don't know. Booster could walk around in his bright costume the whole hour. They might not be able to afford it.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but I'm surprised to hear that he's not on that. If they've got all those people
Not
on
yet. Not
Dun,
yet.
dun, dun.
So whatever they're holding back for him now, they can't. A couple years ago they talked about the sci-fi series they were developing for Booster, and then that kind of went in the can. And they keep saying, "Oh, we have plans. Oh, we have plans." So
I have plans too.
So is that what you want? You want him on TV, or what do you want most?
I think for me, I'd like to see him go with the movie route, the kind of buddy cop movie with, whether they're time traveling or just give me something JLI related. I don't care at this point.
Just JLI related. That's your favorite iteration. So.
Yes.
Well, staying in movies, Daisy Ridley confirmed she's in talks to any video game fans out there know who Lara Croft is. Tomb Raider. the old franchise that's been around for 15 years, easy. Angelina Jolie used to play her, and it looks like she'll probably get the role. And the last couple iterations of the game were huge successes and really great. Any of you guys ever played any of those games?
Back on the original PlayStation, I did.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah.
But this
She
looks
was all
like,
blocky.
yeah, this looks like it could be a great move for her though. Stepping into another franchise. I mean, look what Harrison Ford did going from Star Wars to Indy.
Yeah.
So
Since you brought that up, I feel like Harrison's on a
Goodwill tour.
greatest hits tour.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
Yes, yeah. And Lego Batman trailer dropped. There's it's the sequel to the huge success of the Lego movie. So I didn't realize that's the direction they were going with this. It was going to be Lego Batman. I just thought it'd be Lego Movie 2.
Yeah.
Chris Pratt again, and it's not going to be that. It's Will Arnett as Batman.
So I was just gonna ask, is he back as Batman?
Yeah, he was a fan favorite. When it showed up in the first one, everybody loved.
I didn't realize this was part of that
Universe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was a spin-off or a sequel or
Yeah.
I thought it was its own thing.
No, it's totally just running with that. It's going to have Will Arnett, Michael Cera as Robin, Zach Galifianakis as the Joker, Rosario Dawson as Batgirl. The trailer's hilarious.
This might be the Batman hit of the year.
I shared it, but I haven't got to watch the trailer yet. But
it was good.
That Zach is going to be the
same.
Joker.
Yeah,
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it looked really good. He I think when Alfred leaves him a lobster dinner or something, it did part of the trailer is just him microwaving it. And he hits the wrong time. It's just exactly the same humor as the original movie. So everything will be awesome again.
The first Lego movie. I even had the awesome theme
How's that song go?
Everything is awesome.
Yeah, I just wanted to get that stuck in your head.
That's all right. I have it on speed dial.
Well, that's about all the movie news. If we're not talking about the Batman movie, so
Michael's like biting his tongue. He just has
so
much to say.
Give us 10 seconds. And
this is the one thing that I will say, and I don't think this is a spoiler because it's been said.
Okay.
I don't like that Batman has been fighting crime for 20 years and Superman's just getting started.
This is the problem.
That's my first issue.
Okay. Keeping track. Moving on to TV. Insert Cliff's cool drop now.
You have failed this city. Run, Barry, run!
Marvel and DC on TV.
I am Supergirl.
What's your name, darling?
Agent.
Joveleth!
Okay, I've asked this before, I can't remember it. Do any of you guys watch The Walking Dead?
Yes, Jordan and I were actually just talking about this.
I'm the only one that doesn't watch it now.
Cause I think I may have got the impression before nobody cared for it. And it's been hit or miss for me over the years, but I always watched it cause I read the comics and it's neat to see it come on TV. But I guarantee somebody's going to hear about it.
This season, actually, I've really enjoyed this last season.
This is the best season in a long time.
Yeah.
And, you're up.
Yeah.
Caught up. I mean, we're gonna spoil the show. Anybody that hasn't watched the show, we won't, we're not gonna tell you what's gonna happen, I guess. But, Daryl's been missing his bow and all that. And
right.
We're kind of waiting for that moment in the comics
waiting for it to come
about
back
now
around.
where someone was gonna get shot with an arrow through the eye. It was like, who's it gonna be? Cause they kind of play spin the wheel of who's gonna get it. I was surprised at the moment. I wasn't expecting when that Dr. Denise got it.
Yeah, that scene was really tense. If you've read the comics, you know who gets the arrow.
Yeah.
And there's a scene that almost mirrors the comics, and I was waiting, and it didn't happen.
Right.
I was like, oh, well, they might be doing something different, so I kind of let my guard down. boom, it happens to Denise. Oh, they got me. Like,
Yeah.
it was a moment of real shock. So even for people who've read the comics, so it was a well done, surprise moment.
Yeah, and it's not as much as I think sometimes they just pick whoever to do it to. It does seem to me like it does drive the story forward as far as she was the doctor.
Right.
And now, Glenn and Maggie, Maggie's pregnant. It's a reason for them to move on to the hilltop,
Right.
where, is an obstetrician.
Michael, you mispronounced something. You
Yeah.
can jump on
I'm just
it.
excited
You can
for
jump
once. I'm too excited to speak.
But yeah, I mean, we probably shouldn't debate how smart it was taking your only doctor out on a run where it's dangerous.
Right.
But, we'll gloss over that little point.
Yeah, why they did.
But I do think that's kind of the beauty of, for the people that have read the comics, it's kept interest in the show.
Well, they do different things.
It's different, but it's similar.
Well, yeah, Kirkman was interviewed saying, they're looking forward to this, where it meets up with issue 100 of the comics, and anyone that, if you don't read the comics and have any interest, go read the comics.
Yeah,
First
really,
off,
by all means.
really should.
Yeah.
You should buy them at Asylum Comics because they're always in stock, and there's a great selection of all of them.
yeah, I mean, you need it, because the story is just a little different, but
I did like a commercial while we were talking. I don't think anybody noticed.
but it's really good. It's just a different, if you're a fan of The Walking Dead, I've heard a lot of people going back and reading the comics, and it's just a different take on the whole thing, and you're getting the original story that it's based on.
And that's the funny thing is it's never slowed down, the sales on these books. When the show first premiered, it wasn't as huge as it was, but it was still a big, for a cable show, it broke some records and stuff. And those first few buyers are like, I'm curious what this is. I'll buy the first couple volumes. And then a few seasons go by, and then, there's a couple, several months between seasons 2 and 3, say. People would come in like, I can't wait any longer. I need to get more of this story. And now people are coming in like, well, I've watched the show a bunch of times. I want to see how it's different in the comics. And then you get people coming in like, I can't wait anymore. I got to know what happens next. Like there's just been this. The show's been on 5 years now, something like that. It's never slowed down.
yeah,
The
this
enthusiasm.
is the end of
and
season 6, I think. We're on now.
so it's crazy. I've never seen anything like it in a comic adaptation as far as that sustained interest in the source material.
Yeah, they've definitely, I think, drawn up the blueprint from now on how to deal with these shows.
Well, they have, anyway, they were building up to this issue 100, meeting up with the finale of season 6, and everybody's been talking about the bad guy Negan showing up, and, Kirkman was saying how actually what they end up doing in this finale, he goes, I don't get goosebumps often, but I got goosebumps. He's like, this is what he's been waiting on, and, saying, and Scott Gimple basically said the same thing. He's the showrunner right now, but that they want to create that feeling you got when you read issue 100. They want the people that read that to get that feeling again. It's going to be unexpected.
Like where you wanted to vomit and cry.
They want that moment. If you don't watch it, don't read the comics, you don't know what it is, but there's a big moment, and they want to let us who think we know what to expect to get something unexpected. So
excellent.
I'm excited about that. And I got that unexpected feeling when I watched this episode and found out that Daryl Dixon can't drive a stick shift.
I know, that was hilarious.
It's like, what? That was the most unrealistic thing in the whole show. You expect
A country boy?
He rides around that motorcycle all the time, but he can't figure this out.
Looking at at Denise like, how dare you tell me you can drive a stick shift, It's like
I know you've read all the comics. Someone asked me today and I couldn't answer. That plot point of we are all Negan, was that part of the comics?
I don't
can't remember
that.
very well.
I don't remember that.
You think that's some kind of twist they're doing on the show, or is it just a more thematic
I think
thing?
I think it was just a fact of trying to throw people off that have not read the comics, but there's so many casting things out there. Everybody should know that this is coming, that there's a guy.
But it amazes me the amount of people that still are out there, non-comic readers that don't catch on to this stuff. I mean, for the most part, I think a lot of people, especially people that normally don't buy comics, like Jordan said, have come and seeked it out, all the back issues and to see what's going on and where things lead to. But still, there's a lot of people out there that are I think that have the attitude of, I don't want to know. I don't want it spoiled. So, and it's funny to get their reactions to it because I don't know, it just would be so different for me because when you don't know anything about it.
Well, there was a teaser I saw that they released for the finale. It was released in the Netherlands, but I assume it's made its way here throughout the day. But I saw it actually showed him. It showed Lucille. It was kind of showed the back of him standing there, and then it showed a close up of Lucille. Mm-hmm. And it definitely made me tingle. I'm ready for that episode. Other things that are different from the comics. This whole Michonne. There was no Rick and Michonne relationship in the comics that I recall ever even hinted at. And, I don't know what did you guys think of that?
It's definitely different. It's a different take.
I mean, everybody so far on the show, everybody dies that Rick dates.
Right. If you just watch the show, it's kind of like it's an offspring almost from Michonne and Carl's relationship and how it's developed. I kind of feel like.
Now I saw that there's going to be like an origin story for Negan in previews, like Image Plus.
Yes, they're putting out like a catalog now every month. And how do you get people to buy a catalog with all your items in it? You put in original content from The Walking Dead. Exactly. There's like 4 pages every month or something like that. You get the origin story.
Okay, so I want to mention that because I didn't know that people even knew that was something out there. I mean, that was going to be. I think people are going to want that. Want to read that. And you guys keep on get around to Daredevil. Did you watch any more of that, Michael?
I could go on and on about how good Daredevil is.
How far are you?
Like, I'm towards the end. It's so good that I don't want to binge watch it just for the fact of I want to enjoy it every day, just a little bit by little. And today's probably, I think I watched maybe 1.5 or 2 episodes, and I was like, because it's just so good letting it sink in. I think that I don't have any complaints with that show at all. Like the characterization, the drama, just the whole Punisher origin, and like when I don't want to give anything away, but it's so good.
Yeah, I mean,
have they renewed it for season 3? Or?
Oh, they had to. I haven't
heard anything.
Well, I mean, they haven't renewed Supergirl yet.
I was just going to say that.
They renewed like 10 or 15 CBS shows today, and Supergirl wasn't one of them.
How is that possible?
But I was surprised to see that.
I will say on Daredevil, like, to me, like, the one thing that I don't think it's Daredevil that makes the show. I think it's the supporting cast that makes the show for his character.
A lot of people don't like the Foggy Nelson or Karen Page. I mean, I like them.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's definitely good. I'm only about halfway through. So.
Are you talking comic fans that don't think they're an accurate representation?
Nah, I don't know if that's what it is. It probably is that. I don't know how you could say. I mean, I don't think she's as, I like the comic Karen Page, I guess, better. What I've read of it, but Foggy's he's Foggy. I just wonder how much are you going to really like Foggy?
And that's actually one of those places where, as I'm okay with Daredevil, but I've never been a huge fan of the character. I've barely collected it over the years, so I'm
surprised that you're not like doing everything you can to try to see the show, Jordan. I know you're a Daredevil fan.
I love Daredevil. He's one of my favorite characters of all time. I don't know. I think I love him too much. I'm worried about adaptation. And if it's not as good as I hope it is, then it's gonna how Michael feels about Superman right now. It might ruin my afternoon.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm a cheapskate, and Netflix costs money. So,
well, that's true. It does. It's not free. Everybody has it, but everybody's paying for it.
I thought I could outwait it and a DVD would come out within 6 months or 8 months, but Netflix doesn't have any incentive
baby.
to put anything on a DVD.
That was kind of my thought too. I thought, I'll just wait out till the Blu-ray comes out or whatever, and it's just not happening.
They're in no hurry.
Yeah, I don't think they'll do it at all. So Supergirl, you guys were talking about right before we started. Was it? Something big happened this week?
Well, this was basically the Martian Manhunter, the first big episode focusing on the Manhunter, his origin in the show, and how he became Hank Henshaw.
The one thing that I thought was a pretty good episode, but the one thing I thought was weird was you never figured out what the original Hank Henshaw's motive was for just wanting to kill all aliens.
That's true. Yeah, and he wasn't a very likable guy at all.
Yeah, he just was like, the only good alien is a dead alien, kind of.
What is wrong with that? That's a valid motivation. Aliens are terrible.
Well, you have Superman that is a...
Well, and like even in the show they reference like Superman. I don't care what Superman says about you or something like that.
Because like he knows that it's Martian Manhunter in I forget, it was the African or wherever it was. Somewhere.
Yeah.
But
South America.
Okay, yeah, that's really close to Africa. But it was a really good episode. It showed basically how Hank Henshaw, the original one, died. And how the Danvers sisters' father died.
And how they figured into him and why he's watching over them.
The huge reveal was at the very end when they broke out Hank Henshaw and what's Supergirl's sister's name? Besides Pretty.
You asked me too fast. I don't think that's it.
Anyway, but the big reveal at the end of it was that they figured out that their dad was still alive at Project Cadmus, and they run off to find him. My theory,
played by
Dean Cain,
the incomparable Dean Cain.
So from now on in the show, is he just going to be the Martian Manhunter, or are we done with this Hank Henshaw crap?
No, I don't think they have the budget for Martian Manhunter.
Well, I mean, he could still just be John Jones.
Yeah.
But I guess you'd have to change actors.
I think it's just, I mean, they'll go back. I think eventually he'll go back to running a DEO and all that stuff. Yeah. What I think is going to happen is they're going to find Mr. Danvers at Project Cadmus, and it's going to be Cyborg Superman all over again.
That would be an interesting take.
I mean, because to me, Supergirl from day one has basically been a Superman show. They're weaving all these plot threads and and concepts from the Superman mythos right into the Supergirl mythos, and using a lot of plot points and story concepts. And I don't understand why they can't use it for Superman, but it's okay. I love Supergirl.
Well, they had bigger things planned for Superman.
Shut up.
No, next week's the big crossover episode, right?
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's
Flash and Supergirl. Again, another take from Superman because they're going to race.
Yeah. They're going to get Mr. Bevilacqua, the gym teacher, deep Seinfeld pool. The foot race.
I choose not to race.
Exactly. But executive producer Greg Berlanti was saying that they're already possibly planning on her going to his show. You know,
why not?
And now, did I see where they're saying this is not the same universe?
Right.
Okay.
He's
crossing worlds or whatever.
I'm thinking is because there's the one scene he has this device around his symbol. So I assume they built a device to try to get him back to Earth 2 to see what's going on. And he ends up in the Supergirl world.
Well, when he first traveled through the tunnel into Earth 2, you saw some flashes of alternate Earth, and you saw Supergirl there. So
and a Legion ring.
That was foreshadowing an easy reason or an easy plot point to be able to jump networks.
So this is so Barry Allen, is that correct?
Yeah.
So she just she will, I assume there's a Barry Allen in her world somewhere.
Well, that's what we're wondering, if maybe with the Flash world, his Earth, is there a Kara Danvers out there? You know, we don't know.
So what, the people she's all fought, they've all been these escapees from the Phantom Zone. Are there other metahumans besides John Jones? Have they hinted at a wider world of...
Well, actually that episode, her office arch nemesis finds out that she has powers at the very end of the episode.
And we've had like,
Livewire.
Yeah, Livewire. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
I saw that executive producer was talking about how those characters were just an obvious match. Like, these are two characters, and he said that they're daytime heroes that live more in the light, was his quote. And I thought, Superman used to live in the light.
He needs to have a conversation with Zack Snyder.
That's the first thing I thought. I was like, I know another daytime hero. But it's night all the time now. I saw they were wanting to work Linda Carter into season 2, if there is one. But, you know what they're wanting her to play?
No, I just saw the headline too. I was curious.
Yeah, it was kind of deep into the blurb there, but, she supposedly, they're setting her up, wanting her to be the president of the United States.
Interesting.
I know a lot of people wanted her to play Hippolyta in the movie, Wonder Woman's mother, which would make sense too.
Right. And then I saw that, you guys know there was a Power show on PlayStation Network.
Yeah, I watched it.
Hey, you asked me why I didn't watch Daredevil?
Because
I watched the first episode of Powers.
Now that's a show that's kind of removed from the source material just a little bit.
Yeah. I can't remember what the first season was supposed to have really been about, because I only watched like 2 episodes of it for obvious reasons. There were little things that were good, you know, but apparently this second season that's coming out there, I think it's May 31st, it's going to be Who Killed Retro Girl. So what the heck were they doing the first season? Does anybody remember?
I couldn't even tell you. I've collected the comic since day 1 when it first came out, and I still buy it when they managed to put it out. They only put out about 4 issues a year, but it means a lot to me. It's one of those first indie books I bought. It helped grow my Bendis fandom, because I loved Bendis back in the day. So yeah, I was severely let down by the show.
Well, they've got a few more people in season 2 that, let's see, Tricia Helfer is going to be on there. Michael Madsen is going to be Super Shock. And Will Wheaton is going to be on there too. So he weaseled his way on there.
See, the one had Eddie Izzard, which I love him.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we've got PlayStation Network, so I may try it out, see what.
I don't know if I'm trying to remember if I watched the whole season 1 or not, because I think I watched a good 5 or 6 episodes, I think. So I can't remember, but it was okay.
One last thing about Flash. Is everybody caught up on Flash? Did you watch?
I'm as caught up as I'm going to be.
Has there been a new one lately?
Yeah, there was one Tuesday.
Oh, okay. So I'm not caught up on the newest one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, basically, the ending, Barry discovers who Zoom is himself, and finally figures out and has this great Wrath of Khan moment where he races off and has this big Khan, you know.
Which I have a question with you guys. I don't know if we brought this up previously. Do you think that's the Jay Garrick of Earth 2, or what's your... Because here's my theory on all that, is I think the guy in the Iron Mask is Jay Garrick. I don't know which Earth he's from.
Yeah.
I think that the Zoom is probably Hunter Zolomon from Earth 1, or from Earth 3, which would be a crime syndicate Earth.
I kind of thought Earth 3 myself.
Listen to these DC guys. Us Marvel guys are rolling our eyes like, how silly are all these different Earths?
Exactly.
Yeah, I was
fighting guys in the hallways. They don't jump from Earth to Earth.
Well, because they reveal that Jay Garrick, when Zoom took off his mask, he looked like Jay Garrick. So, and they're talking about the Speed Force and how it all plays.
I kind of hope he is from Earth 3 and we get a crime syndicate. Cause how great would that be? To do almost a crossover Flash Arrow episode that way and bring all our heroes in from Legends of Tomorrow and Arrow and to fight the crime syndicate.
That'd be pretty sweet.
So I'm all for that.
So how much of this season is left? How much room is there to do all this?
Well, this would obviously not be this season. We're almost done, and he's just now discovered that he hasn't even found a way to get back to Zoom to fight him yet. So we're still on that path.
Okay.
I didn't follow any of that.
You guys need to get caught up.
I don't have 40 years to go back and start reading DC.
Like Marvel doesn't have alternate Earths.
There's like 26 different Thor books out there right now.
Anyone heard of Ultimates?
Yes, that's the other one. Okay, I dug for Star Wars news just so we could listen to this.
Star Wars! Nothing but Star Wars!
Harrison Ford was on Ellen, and so I watch Ellen religiously.
I'm sure you do.
Now, he was on there and said to any Han Solo hopefuls out there going to play the young Han Solo, he says, don't do it.
Right.
She was saying, you know, if he had any tips for the new one, he said, it's not new. It's worse than that. It's young. He said, at first, you know, it seems like everything is going swimmingly. You put in 25 or 30 years and then they just let you go.
I can never get a read on him.
Yeah.
Whether he hates us all,
he's a different,
or whether he's just messing with us. I can never read when he does interviews or talk shows or Comic-Con appearances.
Is he genuine?
Yeah,
or, you know, sometimes you think he's so, you know, he's so up there in age, he has no reason to not be genuine. You know, I think that's what you're getting right now with that. He's like, I can still do this, but he also wants to be killed. You know, which is, but there's still like 5 potential people up for that role. But it seems like the leader of the pack right now is that Taron Egerton, which
is that the one?
Kingsman. I think it's from Kingsman.
Oh. Well, I remember you talking about that guy that had those YouTube videos.
Yeah, he's not like seriously being considered.
Yeah.
Did you look that guy?
Yeah,
up?
I did.
Ridiculous.
He did sound like him, and he did look like him.
Yeah, it's that's worth watching, but I don't know that he has any acting talent.
In slight Star Wars news, Mark Hamill, a fan pointed out to him that Arkham wasn't his name.
Okay, then that happened.
Mark Hamill.
Yeah, like the end of his name and the beginning of the other.
It was
name,
on Twitter, wasn't it?
Like spelled out Arkham or.
So there's that.
Yeah.
I thought you said Mark Camel.
Mark Kimmelto.
I also think my pal Corey, who he does the podcast Spider Crimes, they do
Corey Spanner.
Corey Spanner. They talk about it's a couple of OU students, and they talk about old comics and silly things that have happened.
Now,
and the
old comics to them or old comics to us?
Like they're going back through like a strange journey in the mystery or something like that.
Oh, they're going way
weird,
back.
like mad scientists that turned an army invisible and like a lot of odd stuff. But I think their Twitter account got Mark Hamill to tweet back at them. Because they wrote a funny satire about how Mark Hamill was bummed he wasn't nominated for Best Supporting Actor for his role in The Force Awakens. It's like that steely gaze I had for 10 seconds was and Mark Hamill, I think he either retweeted the thing or tweeted back to one of them. I was like, that's nice work.
He is actually, I don't know if you follow Mark Hamill or not, but he's very active on Twitter. But all the time I'm reading stuff where he interacts with fans and jokingly, and he'll put up pictures of stuff.
Of Harrison Ford.
Pretty much.
Anybody have anything about comics?
What are comics?
Tom Breakport was saying that Jessica Jones comic is in the work, whether that means a new Alias or the Pulse or whatever it's going to be. Yeah. That's
I'm surprised
it's going to be supposedly Bendis, and it's basically a done deal.
I'm surprised that hasn't happened already, actually.
Well,
I think they would
kind
have
of busy.
better planning to get ahead of that.
Maybe they just weren't really sure how the show was going to go.
They didn't know it was going to be as big a hit as it was before he sets aside some time to actually write that. And
I will say, Superman versus Batman made me want to read more comics, but not for the obvious reason.
watch less movies and read more comics.
Yeah. But along those lines of recently, I mean, this isn't new comics, but I picked up, before Watchmen, the Darwyn Cooke's run of the Minutemen here at Asylum Comics. Still available.
A bargain price.
And granted, I didn't see any of the other ones, but I'm a huge fan of his artwork and his style, and I think the man should go on to be, up there with all the other legends. It was a really entertaining story, and I think it fit very well in the mythos, and I enjoyed the heck out of it. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, I think the Minutemen was the best of those before Watchmen series, because there was the most, Watchmen dealt so little with those characters. There was more to explore with their early days. And you've seen the Darwyn Cooke's designing those cartoon characters, like the Hanna-Barbera series they're doing with Johnny Quest and all those.
Yeah.
So he's not drawing it, obviously. I'm sure he couldn't keep a monthly schedule, but it'll be the feel of his kind of art.
Nice.
Which, yes, Johnny Quest, and
There's like hipster Scooby-Doo, isn't there?
that's a separate book.
Okay.
Yeah, Scooby Apocalypse, that one's called. It's the Future Quest book. It's gonna have Johnny Quest, Space Ghost, all the Hanna-Barbera greats. Yeah, it looks fun, and I think if Darwyn Cooke's in charge of it, it should have a good retro feel to it.
Put me down for a copy.
Okay, sold.
We haven't had any Johnny Quest for a while now. It used to be a staple on TV even.
It's called Venture Brothers. Scooby-Doo Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Along with that, it'll be the Scooby Apocalypse.
Which I wonder, cause there's a piece of artwork that was floating around for a long time that had the gang, in apocalyptic times. And I'm just wondering if that's because it got a lot of heat behind it. So I'm wondering if that's what made them go that direction.
Give somebody an idea.
Yeah.
I saw this DC Rebirth starts May 25th. What is all this?
It's not a reboot.
Okay. It's a rebirth.
It's apparently not. When I first heard the rumors, they're rebooting, they're restarting everything with a number 1. I rolled my eyes. I was like, all right, yeah, okay, DC, great. But everything I've read about it, everything I've heard about it, Geoff Johns did an interview. He said all the right things that I want to hear, talking about going back to some of these more classic characters.
That's what I took from it.
With better, he doesn't want to erase continuity, but it's more like
refocusing?
Yes, the classic continuity we're all familiar with, and getting back to some of these
core characters.
Is Superman going to find his underwear?
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't place bets. But yeah, they're going to do these Rebirth one-shots. So every character, they're going to end all the series that are going on at issue 52. Big shock. All the ones that have been going since the new 52, we're going to hit issue 52.
I feel like this has been going on since you opened.
No.
Well, because the countdown to 52 and the,
when I opened, it was in the middle of Final Crisis.
Okay.
So it was 2005. Final Crisis had just started. So then it was 52 countdown. Yeah, it was
52, 52, 52. Pick up 52.
But yeah, all the books are going back to $2.99 cover price.
Yeah,
and all starting over with a new number 1, except for Action and Detective, which are going to be renumbered back to their original numbering.
See, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm all for the original numbering. What's it?
Now, are they going to include these numberings before as part of that, or is it just going to go
it'll be wherever they left off plus 52.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's good.
Okay.
Neat. The only last thing I had was this kind of breaking news just a few hours ago. Just because he doesn't say, he doesn't just frivolously say things, but, Brian K. Vaughan, I follow him on Twitter, and he was saying, someone asked him specifically about, if he knew any news on a Y the Last Man.
Mm-hmm.
They specifically asked on FX if there was any kind of news on that, and he just said, stay tuned.
Huh.
So apparently there must be something in the works that they're getting ready to announce, more than just rumor, I guess. And if he's saying it, I feel like he should be in the know. I'm excited about that. I've been waiting for years for something.
I kind of feel like everything is kind of in the works right now. Everything that ever really mattered at this point, somebody will ask somebody, hey, what about this? Oh yeah, we're working on that.
I guess what I feel like is they're getting past the things I've they've done the things I want. This is one of the things that didn't get done that I'm like, okay, now I'm excited. I want this.
But not that I followed that series, but I know both of you guys were heavily into it. Is that not a series that would translate very well to TV?
I think it would.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a long, it takes years to tell the story.
It's absolutely would work on TV. It just depends who did it. It's very in the vein of, I hate to say Walking Dead, but it's just a story that just continues.
Yeah, because there's several different settings. They travel across the country.
Right.
Yeah, it could lend itself each season to be a different threat. Walking Dead's a pretty good analogy. I'm actually most shocked that Brian K. Vaughan has a Twitter account.
It's just a few months.
Okay, because he makes people write in actual letters. He doesn't do email.
It is in sharp contrast. I love his letters pages.
You have to physically mail him a letter, or you're not going to hear.
Yeah, he makes you work. But yeah,
he's my hero. I want to be him.
Yeah. So yeah, when I saw that, I was like, well, he's not just he doesn't just do that. So that kind of wraps up all that kind of news. Do we have any?
Is that our weekly news?
I think so.
For this hour.
Well, we didn't talk about Arrow, which
we never talk about Arrow. Go ahead.
Actually, did you watch it?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
I did enjoy it. Now Felicity is fixed. Suddenly,
Felicity is fixed.
She's up and mobile again.
Or something?
No, she's walking again.
Oh, she got some of that computer.
She got new legs.
Just as her and Oliver were ending their relationship.
Actually, I will say about Arrow, as far as villains go, Cupid is probably one of my favorite villains on this show.
That was pretty well done. I like that. It was a good episode.
I like the contrast between her and Oliver. And
that doesn't ring a bell with me. Is there
Cupid?
Is that a comic character?
Yeah. She female villain who also an archer.
That makes sense because Cupid has like his own
arrows. See what they did there.
And she shoots heart-shaped arrows.
Of course she does.
And even her bow is kind of shaped like a heart.
That's adorable. Does she wear a diaper?
No. But with her character in the beginning, she was madly in love with
Green Arrow.
She was in love with Arrow, and then he supposedly died, and then she was in love with Deadshot, although we can't call him Deadshot. So they killed him because they were all together in Task Force X, not Suicide Squad. And so now she's mad at love and she's like kidnapping people that are truly in love and killing them.
She's murdering, famous couples.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
So
they have to
look out, Kim and Kanye.
Yeah. God, we can only hope. Yeah, so Oliver.
That would be an easy target.
Yeah. Yeah, so they have to kind of Oliver and
that
Felicity
took me a second to get
have to fake their wedding since they've called it off because they were going to be her next target. So they kind of set her up. And hilarity ensues.
Yes. Oh, and Detective Lance ruins his career to Saint Damien Dark.
Yes, who is now going by some other name.
He's from Marcolbia or
yeah.
something. I don't even know if that's a fictitious
Isn't
country.
that where... Yeah, it's a DC... Isn't that where
Terra and Geoforce...
Yeah, Geoforce was... They were from. They were royalty there, so... Yeah, get your DC references, Michael.
I know the characters.
So
as we wind down here, how about you hit us with a deep thought there, Jordan?
And now, deep thoughts.
You want a deep thought?
Dig deep. Youngling.
Yeah, I was reading an article on the AV Club, which is the pop culture site, sister to The Onion. And they did a parenting guide. It was written by some of the people there. They write about pop culture, but they had some of the parents on staff write, talking about how superheroes are huge. You can't escape any of the superhero stuff going on. And saying like, okay, if the kids aren't ready for these movies, but they're kind of inundated with the superhero stuff, what's some like youth friendly things they should get into? And each one made a suggestion, like, you know, basically my first graphic novel or it was Teen Titans Go, Powerpuff Girls, Captain Underpants, some of these things for the youngest readers. And, they were writing about basically the culture today, and I don't have kids, but I know you guys all do, and they were saying how much they're marketed to, and how everything out there, you think, a birthday party, you have the plates and the napkins and the cups, like, you can slap a superhero on anything. So there's so much cheap disposable stuff, every hat a kid wears, the shoes, everything has a superhero on it, their backpack. My favorite line was childhoods are like race cars covered in clashing logos. But, superheroes are special. They molt as kids grow. So, a superhero, it's kind of brilliant marketing to slap all these characters. Kids don't even know who they might have a Spider-Man hat and a shirt, but they don't even know who this character is until they get older. So then these superheroes are adaptable to that. Then they have them on cartoons as you watch when you're a little bit older. Then they're in movies a little bit older, the comic books. So the characters grow with the kids. So I just wondered, like, is that having kids? Did you recognize that? Is it something you would hook into? Is it something is it something you'd want to fight, or is it something are you trying to get your kid into this stuff, or is it something that, well, they can find their own way, they'll pick out, because the same thing doesn't happen with other characters. Except for maybe some of us Disney, we don't ever let go of Disney, but a lot of the, Barney, kids don't stick in with Barney in junior high and Thomas the Tank, and like, what makes superheroes different? And is it a good thing or a bad thing?
That's kind of the reason that there is this boom of superheroes in the last decade, is because it finally reached that point where we're all adults now and it's still with us. I mean, I know I was whipping out the superhero costumes for my kid when he was little, he was, wearing Spider-Man outfits and all kinds of things. Just, you kind of, you want your kids to be interested in the things you're interested in. And I suppose you could let them make their own choices on the side.
Well, I can say with growing up a huge Star Wars fan, after the prequels, I kind of let it go a little bit. Of course, at that time we thought it was done. 30 years and then here's your finale, and it's like, okay, maybe I should move on.
It's been a good run.
But with the new movie, I can honestly say with my 8-year-old, I didn't push her into it. I didn't bring it up. It just kind of happened again. The same way it probably did for us. And she's rediscovering, the whole story, but she's so into it right now. And I'm sure part of it's, all the kids are into it at school and it's popular right now. But I can see the fandom developing a little bit with her where I don't have to push her into it. I don't have to bring it up to her. She just kind of does it on her own. Kind of organically. So with that, I haven't really had to push her into it. I don't feel like she was pushed into it. I feel like she did find it on her own.
Because it's weird. I thought before, like, my parents never pushed their pop culture on me.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't like, you need to watch some of these Howdy Doody reruns. They let their stuff go and became adults. They grew up. We never did.
Yeah, we never did.
So like when our generation has kids, we're like, oh, check it out, Ninja Turtles. Like we're pushing the same stuff we love on them. And I don't know if there's going to be some kind of rebellion where they're like, you like it too much, so I got to rebel and not like it.
I don't know.
Well, from my experience, I think kids are always going to find their own path. You can wish all you want for them to like the things that you like, but 9 times out of 10, they're going to make their own choices.
Right.
I was a lifelong and am a lifelong comic book fan, and I read and collected comics, as my boys grew up, and they're all 3 years apart. And through those years, there was different times, like, My youngest Jordan got into Runaways for a little while. And I even tried to do like comic books that would appear to their interests. Like with Jordan was huge into Halo, so I would get him some Halo books. And with my middle son Jared, he loves the X-Men movies. Loves anything to do with X-Men as far as the movie goes, but that's where it stops. He's not interested in seeing anything outside of that. And then with Jeremy, the oldest one, he was always into The Walking Dead and reading those kind of comics, but that was where it stopped. So I think no matter how much you market it to, it comes to a point where the kid is, if they're going to like it, it's not going to be because you like it.
Because I have a few customers I know who have, you can tell they're kind of pushing it, like, I'm going to buy every one of these for this kid. And they sort of, they're trying too hard.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and you just wonder if that's going to ever, pay off.
Well, you see me walk in here with my son and he goes over there and sits down. He does not care at all about looking at comics. I've been like, you want to get a comic? Pick something out. And occasionally he'll be like, oh, he'll get this or that. But most of the time he's just like, whatever, he loves all the movies and all that, but
I think too, well, with our kids, maybe it's part of their age too. They're in that kind of funny age, teenager.
There was a year or two maybe I was too cool for it.
Right. I think that's part of it too. So they may come back to it. With my son, a little story, when Jordan first opened Asylum, in downtown Marietta, his first location, we were walking by one day and my son was he was about 5 years old. He was in kindergarten at that time. And honestly, he had no interest at all in reading. He could have cared less. But he did like cartoons and the superheroes on TV. Of course, he was 5 years old. So we went in one day, I think, just to check it out. I think we rented some movies. But when you walk in, there was that giant wall of comics, big, colorful, everything he loved. So I used that. I don't want to say I pushed him into it, but I used that to get him excited about reading. That's kind of how he learned to read, as we would go and we would buy comics and kind of go over them, and he kind of grew with that. And he'll still sit down and read a comic book, but now he's 15, it's 10 years later, he doesn't, it's not the coolest thing. He'd rather watch the movie right now than sit down and watch or go out and buy a comic.
That 15 to 18 year old, there's a thing called girls that come
right.
get out of comics. Even I went through that stage.
Well, that's the other thing I wanted to ask about. Like, before this was all accepted and in every movie theater and on every TV channel, is that what helped grow our defensiveness and shyness and a shamed feeling? Because superheroes are kid stuff, and if you didn't outgrow them at some point, is that why we stayed in the closet and didn't wear our Wolverine t-shirts to school?
Right.
Was there some sort of because I think everyone growing up before now, if you're of our generation or older, there was some stigma attached.
Mm-hmm.
And, because that's how 90% of the world saw comics. That's kids stuff. So surely this added to the chip on our shoulders.
Well, I think that's why you see a bunch of 35 and 40-year-old guys walking around now in their Wolverine t-shirts.
And yet,
they didn't get a chance.
And yet the high school kids are all walking around in it too, and they get away with it, where we wouldn't have.
That does crack me up, because I remember when Jordan was at his original location talking about how there's football jocks coming in and buying X-Men comics. Yeah. And it's all acceptable. I mean, when I was growing up, I was the only one of my friends that collected comics, and even in my teenage years, everyone knew that I got comics. I don't think I ever really had any t-shirts because they weren't available like they are now. You had to order them through a special catalog, and you had to pay a nice little penny for them.
And then wait 6 weeks.
Yeah. Or 3 months.
I still remember being in college waiting for a class to start, and I looked down in the it's one of those theater seatings, and there was a guy 10 rows ahead of me reading a Wizard magazine. And I'm an adult. I'm like, there's somebody else here that likes comics. It was a big deal to me. Whoa, check out that guy. It was, I'm a grown man. I'm like, somebody here. He might be my friend.
Yeah.
It was so odd and so out of place. Yeah.
Yeah, nowadays, if you look down and saw somebody reading a magazine, you're like, what is that?
But that is a really good question. Is that our defense mechanism because it was never cool for us and now it's cool for everyone?
See, that it is for many people. It doesn't bother me, but I know that you in particular have made several comments just like, this is mine, and now everybody else doesn't realize this was always mine, and now it's everyone's, and you're a little territorial about it. I'm like, if you like this stuff, I'm welcome. We have to be welcoming. Otherwise, we're just sitting on our porch saying, "Get off my lawn."
Right.
It's like
there's something to that. Like these meant something to some,
especially
I agree. Kids who were influenced by this, or there's kids who say, Spider-Man saved my life. The lessons I learned, like that kind of thing.
There's a lot of history built into it.
Yeah. So if some people ingrain this very deeply.
Oh, I
and to see some
understand it.
Poser who doesn't understand,
that's exactly the word I was going to use. Was
everyone
poser.
Jumping on the Deadpool bandwagon.
I could see why it would rub you the wrong way. Of like, this is a sacred thing to a lot of people. It's not just pop culture. It's not just fun and fantasy. It's
thing is, we can't fight it. We can't. It's like, do we really want the alternative? Do we? It's
almost like the kid that cried wolf because we wanted this so badly, and now we have it, and now we're crying because we got exactly what we asked for.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like you just gotta. You're allowed to feel that about it, and I admit I feel some of that too. I'm like, you didn't read all those, all those back issues that I grew up reading, and you're just claiming ownership and walking around with your Captain America T-shirt on.
But that's the same thing. Like the way we grew up, if we wanted to. I told the story of hunting down issues of Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I had those 2 that were missing forever, and I finally got them. Or those series that you used to have to hunt down, and you have memories of like Indiana Jones trying to find that lost treasure, and it's ingrained with you. Where now they just go on Comixology and they can pull up the trade or download it and know the story, or Wikipedia it, which I have a tendency to do from time to time as well. But
I think this is just a new thing for us. As a comic fan or superhero fan, this is new territory.
Having to share?
Yeah, having to share. Like, I've kind of experienced the same thing with sports. I have teams that I've followed my whole life.
Oh yeah, now everybody wants to be a Browns fan.
Well, exactly. Everybody's jumping on that bandwagon. But regardless what team it is, anytime you find a little success with something, then all these people start trying to hop on, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. I suffered through all the crappy years, all the crud. You're not going to ruin, this is mine. You're not going to ruin it for me. So I think it's just new to us in this world.
Well, Patton Oswalt had a great article. I can't remember the website it was. We'll link to it here below the
show notes.
Yeah, we'll allow you to read it. But talking about growing up in the 70s and what it took to be a nerd. It took effort. It took desire. Like, you had to work for it. And that's what, it honed your ability, and it made it more ingrained and deeper of an experience, because you couldn't just walk to any corner store and find the novel you wanted, by Tolkien, or, it's whatever you were a fan of, D&D, or even music or movies. Like, you had to go find this obscure foreign film, or whatever your nerddom was, and how that worked. So yeah, I don't think that gives anyone more nerd cred or whatever you'd call it, but it's a huge difference in our generations, and I think this new fandom's just starting. We don't know where it's going to end. We don't know how it's going to impact these kids as they've grown up in this culture. So it's going to be a big difference. I'm not sure what the outcome is, but I'm interested to hope I live long enough to see it, because I'm very curious.
I feel like it's almost like the Boys in the Hood movie, where it's like, this is our turf, and or let's go Electric Boogaloo, and you can't break dance like this or whatever.
I do hope all our future problems are settled by breakdancing.
Are you show enough?
But yeah, will it be like the 40s where they say, 87% of kids read comics? Like every kid read comics back then.
Yeah.
Now it's like 87% of kids watch superhero movies, I'm sure. So it's as ubiquitous as it was in the heyday height of comics.
Yeah, that's
all these same characters. And then it all collapsed. It all changed. The 50s completely wiped out the industry. So I don't know what's next, but I'm very curious to see it.
Do you think comics are still like the bastard child?
To some extent.
I think so. They still don't have the credibility that they should by now.
I think it's gaining.
Very slowly though.
Well, people are living longer. I think as some generations die off, I think it'll gain more and more like it is now, where as we get older, as these kids get older with it, it's just going to become more ingrained in the pop culture.
Yeah, but is it just, are they really appreciating the source material like they should? It seems like they're grabbing the characters and making movies and television out of them, but
smooshing continuity.
Right, but are they paying homage to the source material and really,
or does it even matter? It's just these characters now amalgams of movie, TV, video game, comic. They exist in a different dimension than they did.
Oh yeah, we don't own them anymore. They're out there.
I'm waiting for Amazon to start publishing fan fiction on comic books. But I mean, it's not the same way that people that read books like I never read a book.
We've established that every book I bring up, you stare at me. People that read books, we don't even know what to call them.
But I mean, where there's a movie based on a book. Is that the same way they feel that the source material is so far from the original material?
Yeah, I think you get the same reaction.
If I ever meet someone who
we'll have to, if you meet one, we'll send them our way. We'll have him as a special guest.
The sad part of that is the last two books I read was through audible.com, so I listened to them because I was too busy to read.
For example, that Stephen King show they're doing, that 11/22/63. I read that book. I love that book. It's one of his better ones. And, when I watch the show, there's good parts and bad parts, and I think, people need to read the book. Of course, always the source material is the best version, whatever part you were exposed to first is what you're going to like the most. And I, so yes, I'm sure. And when they do something with the Dark Tower, we'll all be territorial about that.
Well, that's what happened when they did Harry Potter.
Yeah.
That's what happened with it.
Yeah. So see, Cliff read a book.
I didn't say I read it. I just said that's what happened.
And actually, I am reading a book right now, but it's more of a serious book about purgatory, so I'll stop with that so I don't make this a Debbie Downer.
He picked that because he didn't want there to be any chance he was going to make a movie out of it.
Yeah, they did. It's called Lost. It was a TV show. Full circle, baby. All right, let's wrap it up.
So, Michael, where can people find you on the web if they want to get in contact with the show or us? Or
That's a really good question. Thank you all for once again joining us on this old new podcast. Is that right?
Brand new first episode.
All new, all different.
It's not a reboot, it's a rebirth.
Right. It's a Ka-Pow.
Geoff Johns was on to something.
I'm going to eat the placenta.
Lord.
As always, I am the illustrious Michael K. Easton.
I'm Jordan Lowe.
I'm Cliff Barnes.
I'm Seth Offenberger. And I've seen Michael eat a lot of weird things, including a cheeseburger with peanut butter on it.
Best burger I ever had.